Live from News 7 KWWL, we've got you covered. This is KWWL News at 5.
Now at 5, gun violence garnering national attention, the latest string of shootings and why Americans are increasingly concerned. And a woman attacked on a trail in Evansdale, what police are saying about the suspect. Plus, continuing Molly Tibbetts' legacy in the lives of others. We return to the town of Brooklyn 4 years after the young woman went for a jog and never came home. Well, new here at 5 o'clock, one person is dead and 3 other people are hurt following a crash in Bremer County. This happening this morning around 8:30 on Highway 218, just outside of Janesville. Good evening, everyone. I'm Colin Dorsey. The Iowa State Patrol sharing this information with us in the last few hours. And KWWL's Emily Moss is live for us right near where that crash happened. And Emily, of course, we just learned some new information just a few moments ago. Tell us more.
The guy that was killed, his 71-year-old Gregory Harder. Harder also served as the mayor for Fairbanks since 2018. Authorities say he was riding in a Chevy Impala when it crossed over the center line into the intersection and collided with another vehicle. Investigators also say the Chevy Impala was from the Street Smarts Driver Ed program. The crash report says a 14-year-old was driving the car and dropped off onto the shoulder on the road. Then the driver overcorrected and crossed the center line. That's when both vehicles collided. 2 teens and a 44-year-old woman were also injured, and they were sent to area hospitals. Everyone involved was wearing a seatbelt. Live in Bremer County, Emily Moss, News 7 KWWL.
All right, Emily, thank you. Now, as we continue to learn more, you can always stay up to date on these developing stories by downloading the KWWL News app. It's free to download both in the Google Play and Apple App Store. And we'll get back to news in just a moment, but right now we want to get a check of your weather here in Eastern Iowa. A live look right now, this at the Mississippi River there at the National Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium in Dubuque. It looks beautiful out there, but if you step outside, it's hot. It's sticky. It is kind of gross.
It's all of that wrapped up into a box, if you will. A good day to spend on the water or just to find relief anywhere you can, even if that means air conditioning inside. A look outside over Cassville, a beautiful day to be out on the water if you could. Otherwise, yeah, it was sticky out there. We have those blue skies. No, not really seeing any cloud cover across the state, so sun is shining very bright. We've got 89 right now in Waterloo, 90 in Tama, 88 in Washington, 86 in Elkader. No 90s just yet. Dew points, though, in the low 70s, making it feel pretty uncomfortable outside. And notice we're not under any heat alerts, but they span all the way from North Dakota down to Texas. Will we see any heat alerts in our future? We'll have that answer for you in your Storm Track 7 forecast.
All right, thanks, Joy. Well, 2 people injured by gunfire overnight in Waterloo in 2 different shootings, less than 24 hours apart. Police say the first happening around 11:30 last night in the 700 block of Logan Avenue. That man was taken to the hospital after being shot. Then the second, it happened in the 800 block of South Street around 4:40 this morning. Police say 2 men shot someone they were trying to rob. He was also hospitalized. Both victims are said to have non-life-threatening injuries. So far, no arrests have been made. And in an effort to continue the conversation about addressing gun violence in Waterloo, city council members once again are holding a meeting for the public to voice their concerns on the issue. That'll be a week from today at the Jubilee United Methodist Church Freedom Center. A short presentation will start the night off, and the floor will be opened up to community members to talk. And police are still investigating a deadly shooting at a food court inside an Indiana mall, part of what was a violent weekend across the country. The latest mass shooting coming as a state panel releases new troubling information about the failures of officers responding to the massacre at the Texas Elementary School in Uvalde. Jay Gray has a closer look.
Gunfire overnight at an apartment complex in Atlanta. 5 hit the wounded, ranging in age from 13 to 42. That attack just hours after
a ton of shots fired. At least probably 20 shots fired.
A gunman walks into a Greenwood, Indiana mall and opens fire, killing 3, wounding 2 more before the suspect is killed by an armed civilian.
We're very thankful for a young 22-year-old man who stopped this violent act.
Later, just a few miles away, 1 person killed, 3 injured when a fight at a park escalates into a shootout.
This is an isolated incident. It was a targeted incident, and you are safe.
Gun violence in America is anything but isolated. Research from the Marshall Project shows 124 people die every day in the U.S. from a gunshot. There have already been more than 300 mass shootings this year, including 4 in less than 3 months. At a hospital in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a grocery store in Buffalo, New York, a parade in Highland Park, Illinois, and an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, where a state investigation released Sunday points to systematic failures, mistakes, and a lack of action by a group of officers waiting more than an hour to confront the 18-year-old gunman. One of dozens of investigations continuing in cities across the country. Communities struggling to deal with the heartache of overwhelming loss. Jay Gray, NBC News.
We've also now just learned the Texas Department of Public Safety has launched an internal investigation into its own response to the shooting at Robb Elementary. The agency saying today they are, quote, currently reviewing and examining the actions of every trooper, officer, agent, and ranger that went to the school that day, adding they are trying to determine if there were any violations of policy, law, or doctrine. Well, the penalty trial of Parkland school shooter Nicholas Cruz started today. He pled guilty to 17 counts of murder and 17 counts of attempted murder last October in connection to the 2018 shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Prosecutors will present aggravating factors for the death penalty using 911 calls, videos, and witnesses from that day to make their case.
Couldn't hear me over the sound of the gunshots. It was so incredibly loud. And that was it. We just hid under my desk, we hid in the corners, and we tried to stay as quiet as possible.
The defense choosing to reserve their opening statement today. The jury must be unanimous in order to recommend the death sentence, but the ultimate decision comes down to the judge. Well, new this evening, we've learned a woman was allegedly assaulted on a trail in Evansdale last week. It happened around 10:30 at night last Thursday in the area of Clark Street and the Nature Trail in Evansdale. The victim telling police a masked person grabbed her and then threw her to the ground, but she was able to get away. The suspect allegedly had a stick and was on a bike at the time. Police say their investigation into that incident is ongoing. And the search through the Cedar River for an 11-year-old girl who went underwater at Palisades Kepler State Park last Wednesday and never came back up continues today. Lynn County officials say they've used boats, drones, divers, and helicopters to look for Zaya Thomas. This is new video of those search efforts from today. Officials tell us the 11-year-old girl was not wearing a life jacket at the time. Several agencies are helping in that search. And on the upper Iowa River in Winneshiek County, 4 kayakers were safely rescued after finding themselves stranded. It happened Saturday afternoon. Sheriff's officials say Decorah firefighters found the 2 adults and 2 children on a small island near Kendallville. All 4 were okay. And looking ahead now, the House will vote to codify a decades-old Supreme Court ruling related to contraception this week. The 1965 Griswold versus Connecticut decision protects the right of married couples to buy and use contraceptives without government restriction. That House vote, which is unlikely to pass the Senate, is one of a number of so-called messaging votes being conducted in the wake of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade last month. Well, coming up, more cases of monkeypox, why the president's top medical advisor says it's not too late to contain it. And the times, they are a-changin'. New data shows a switch up in record-breaking weather patterns. That's coming up in just a few minutes.